Gemini Omni was announced at Google I/O, but now Google is bringing it to their API. Think Nano Banana like editing capabilities, but specifically designed for video. In this video, I want to show you how to use this through their new API and what are some of best practices that a lot of people ignore. Because it has some really neat capabilities that not a lot of models offer. So let's get started. You can use this in the Google's new Interaction API. Now, the Interaction API supports some pretty neat new capabilities which were not available in the other video generation models. But before that, let's look at pricing, because this is what a lot of people were interested in. Now, this is built on top of the Flash model. It's actually called Gemini Omni Flash. And the pricing is actually similar to Veo 3.1 Fast. So this is a pretty capable model at a reasonable cost compared to the original Veo 3.1. And this efficiency is really at the core of a lot of models that Google and other companies are releasing at the moment. Now, the main capability of this model is video editing based on text or a reference image prompts. So let's have a play with it. Okay, but then if you provide a reference image and simply say transport the violinist to the image environment, it can actually preserve the rest of the screen and simply change the background. Now, here's another iteration. This is turn number 2, where we say make the violin invisible. Again, the pose is exactly the same as the original video, but it is following the text prompt pretty accurately. And then the beauty is that you can continue. So here is another turn where we ask the model to change the camera angle to be over the violinist's shoulder. Again, it is able to preserve the original pose and simply rotate the camera in special dimensions, which is pretty incredible. Okay, in the rest of the video, I'll show you some code examples of how you can build the new Gemini Omni Flash model. So first we need to set our API key. Then we're going to be using the Interaction API. So the model string at the moment is Gemini Omni Flash Preview. It's still a preview model, not generally available. You can now set the aspect ratio. So I'm going to use 16:9, but there are different aspect ratios that you can play with. Then we're going to use the Interaction API. So when you are using the Interaction API, you can provide reference input images, reference audio, although that is not supported at the moment, and text prompts. Also, if you want it to be stored upstream, which means Google is going to store the video for you on the backend, so you can provide subsequent prompts in order to edit that video, that is possible. You can also define the video duration. At the moment, it's limited to 10 seconds. Now, for the Interaction API, you will just need to provide the ID of the previous interaction if you want to edit a specific video. Okay, then we have a helper function that is basically going to render the video and show it to the user. Now, how to prompt the Omni model? Well, for this, if you have any background in photography, I think that's going to be extremely helpful. For example, you can define shot and motions, different styles, lighting conditions, locations, actions, or specific type of audio that you want. I will actually show you a couple of examples of these. Now, to test its video generation capability, here's a simple quick text prompt. A hyper-realistic close-up of a chameleon slowly shifting color on a mossy branch. Dewdrops, soft morning backlight, shallow depth of field. And here's the video that it generated. Which is pretty amazing. At the moment, it can only generate 720p videos. Now, it has amazing world knowledge because it's trained on top of the Flash model, and it does text rendering. These are a couple of examples that I covered in my previous Omni video, so I'll put a link to that in the video description. But the one that I was actually really interested in was that it's able to generate audio that is in sync with the visuals that you are generating, and you can actually define the type of audio that you want to generate. So for example, in this case, we want to create a scene of a cafe at night. The barista is steaming milk, and then there's ambient jazz playing in the background. The espresso machine is making hissing sound, and the cups clink softly. So let me show you the output. Here's what the output looks like. It is kind of awesome, right? You can see that it follows the prompt really closely and does a really good job at creating hyper-realistic visuals. Now, the main strength of this model is video editing using multi-turn conversation. So here is an example. We have an input video, and now I can provide a text prompt which simply says change the butterfly to a bee, and you can see it does really targeted edits. It is able to preserve the rest of the video, which is pretty incredible. But then we can have a subsequent one where say change the bee into a small swarm of fireflies, and let me play this in sync. So if you look at it, it actually preserves the rest of the video. Now, it also preserves the audio. Sometimes you're going to see small deviations in the audio, but in general, it does a really good job at preserving both the visual consistency and the audio that you provide. Unfortunately, at the moment, they don't support native audio, so you cannot provide an audio file and then drive the generation on top of that audio file. However, if you provide a video with audio, then it will be able to make edits to that video and preserve the audio. So in order to do something like this with the API, here is what you would do. You can either provide an image as a reference. We'll look at an example later in the video. Or right now what I'm doing is I am using the Gemini Omni Flash model to generate a video. And then we're going to get the ID for that specific video. So this is the first turn. We are going to generate the video. In the next turn, when I am generating another video on top of that video, all I need to do is just provide that ID. So the interaction API knows which video to use in the background. So you don't have to provide the video again because it's going to be stored for you. So for example, in the first one, we are asking it to create a scene where somebody's skateboarding. It's a late afternoon, golden light, dynamically handled follow-up shots. Okay, so this is the initially generated video. Now, based on that follow-up, we wanted to include comic style motion lines and a small burst effects coming off of the skateboard. And here is what it does. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that it actually really syncs these comic style effects with the actions that are happening in the video, which is kind of incredible, right? So it has world understanding. It knows what is happening, and based on that, it's able to sync these different elements it's including in the edited video. One thing which I would highly recommend is to use this for video editing. The first generation out of the model is probably not going to be great, but if you provide a reference input image plus a reference video, you can do really, really great targeted edits the way we saw in a couple of examples. Okay, another thing that you can do is you can provide a reference image that is going to be used in the video generation. I think you can provide up to 7 different images, but let me show you how exactly you provide it. So here is a path to image file, and then we're going to provide a text prompt which is simply says animate this. The cat laps the tea, steam curls upward, and a gentle slow push in. This part basically shows you how to control the camera movements. So for example, this is an image generated with the Nano Banana 2 Lite model, and here's the output for that prompt. Pretty nice, right? So let me show you a couple of other fun examples that I tried. In this case, I provided a reference image and simply asked it to animate it, and it does really great with it. I actually had a lot of fun with this model, especially it can generate these assets that you can use as a B-roll in the videos. Now, one final thing, the reference images are not limited to a single image. So I provided these few reference images. So here's the same character in the role of a chef. Here is she as a gamer, and here's she as a farmer. Now, in this case, I said, based on the provided character sheets, create a fast moving montage of this character in different roles, right? And then the theme is that she can do everything with quick, energetic cuts between roles. And I also wanted to see how good it is at preserving the character consistency. Now, here's the video that it generated. Which actually is pretty nice, especially the character consistency was surprisingly great. Okay, so here's another version with targeted editing of that video. Again, it's only editing the person because that's what I pointed out in the prompt. And it's keeping the rest of the video exactly the same. Okay, a few things about safety filters. There are pretty strict safety filters. You cannot use celebrity images as a reference. Also, some words can trigger the filters. So this seems to be pretty aggressive, but hopefully they are going to relax them over time. Anyways, do let me know what you think, what your experience is. What do you think that 10 cents per second is the cost that you're willing to pay for video generation or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.